So get this. In 2023, a major magazine puts out a profile on a huge best-selling author, and the internet just, well, it absolutely explodes. We're talking unified outrage, and it instantly became this perfect window into a fight that's been simmering in the book world for a long, long time. Yeah, the article was about the fantasy author Brandon Sanderson, and it ran in Wired magazine. And I mean, almost immediately, everyone, and I mean everyone, started calling it a hit piece. It was so aggressive that even places like Literary Hub were calling it out as just plain mean. But here's the thing. The reaction wasn't just about defending one writer. It was like a lightning strike that lit up this huge, ongoing war in the literary world. It really makes you ask, what does this whole blow-up tell us about the massive gap between what some people call serious literature and the stories that millions of us actually love to read? Okay, so to really get why people were so mad, we've got to understand the two sides in this fight. You've got literary fiction on one side and genre fiction on the other. For decades, these two have been treated like they're from completely different and totally unequal planets. So, in one corner, you have literary fiction. This is the stuff that's often seen as high art, the kind of books that focus on beautiful, complex sentences that dig deep into the human psyche. It's what you probably studied in school, and it's what usually wins all the fancy awards. And in the other corner, you have genre fiction. We're talking fantasy, science fiction, thrillers, romance. Here, the number one goal is to tell a gripping story. It's all about plot, incredible world building, and just giving the reader an amazing, satisfying ride. Look, at the end of the day, it's not that one is better than the other. They're just playing two completely different games with totally different ways to score points. The conflict, the war, really kicks off when one side, and let's be honest, it's usually the literary side, tries to judge the other guy using its own rulebook. So, how did this whole culture clash play out in that Wired article? Well, it basically became the perfect blueprint for an attack, using every classic criticism the literary world loves to throw at genre fiction. Let's break it down. The reason the backlash was so huge and so united is because this wasn't just a simple book review. It felt like a full-on assault. The article was dripping with condescension for Sanderson and fantasy as a whole. It was flat-out insulting to his fans, and it crossed a massive ethical line by sharing his private health info that he'd explicitly asked them not to. And check out this line right here. This is a perfect example of the article's tactics. By mentioning Utah, it's not so subtly using his geography and his Mormon faith to paint him as some kind of cultural outsider, basically saying a guy like that couldn't possibly have a real literary reputation. But the main event, the real literary jab, was aimed right at his writing style. This was the core of their argument. His prose is simple, it's direct, it's unremarkable. And in their world, that means it just can't be serious art. This table just lays the whole fight out perfectly. The critic was judging Sanderson by the literary world's love of complex, flowery writing. But his fans and defenders fired back, saying, wait a minute, for the kind of massive, detailed worlds he builds, clear writing isn't a flaw, it's an incredible skill. They argued that connecting with millions of loyal readers is a way better measure of success than winning some award decided by a tiny committee. Oh, and then there was the money. The article used Sanderson's incredible financial success as a weapon against him. It opens by talking about his $55 million in earnings, basically framing it as something suspicious. The subtext is clear. If you're that popular, you can't possibly be a real artist. So, you've got this massive attack coming at you from all sides. On your art, your fans, your faith, your success. What do? Well, Sanderson didn't fight fire with fire. Instead, he gave everyone an absolute masterclass in how to control the story. This was genius. First, he totally sidestepped the media and went straight to his people on Reddit. Then, he took the ultimate high road, telling his millions of fans, hey, don't attack the journalist. And finally, and this is the brilliant part, he completely reframed the whole situation. See what he did there? It's a total judo move. He changed the villain. Suddenly, the journalist wasn't this evil, malicious guy. He was just a victim of a broken, clickbait-hungry media system, struggling to get a story in by his deadline. And in that story, Sanderson becomes the calm, reasonable, professional one in the room. Absolutely masterful. And you know what? It worked. It worked perfectly. The hit piece did zero damage, absolutely nothing. Why?
Because Sanderson's power doesn't come from a critic at Wired magazine. His power comes from the direct line of trust and goodwill he's spent years building with millions of his readers.
All right, so let's zoom out. What's the bigger picture here? What does this whole firestorm really tell us about the book world today? Well, it reveals something huge about who actually holds the power and how that power is shifting right under our feet. So here are the big takeaways. First, that cultural war is still very real. Second, the traditional gatekeepers are still deeply suspicious of massive commercial success. But here's the most important part. An author's direct connection with their audience is now a nearly impenetrable shield. The old model where a few critics could make or break a career, it's dying. Power is flowing away from the critics and directly to the readers. What this whole saga shows us is a literary world in the middle of a massive power shift. And it leaves us with one last really provocative question to chew on. If the old gatekeepers and their narrow definitions of good art are losing their grip, who gets to decide what's great anymore? The answer seems to be that power is now completely up for grabs.